the tubs, you know, you got it set at 90, so the front only gets to maybe 87. Right. So I had a whole year where nothing happened. My first year with those racks that I spent all that money on, nothing happened, nothing bred, and I got skunked that season. So that made me, you know, just I had to get the temperature down on those. So I eventually ended up cooling the room, and I did a lot better the next year when I cooled the room. So that was one. There's been a lot.
Can we go back to that real quick, Christian? The cooling room, because I feel like that was my problem again this year. Because I'll tell you why. I keep the boas with my retics and bigger snakes, right?
Right.
And these damn big snakes, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't take much for them to drop the ambient heat for them to get an RI or for them to start wheezing.
Yeah.
So another big reason why I'm pushing the big retics off to somebody else, not really pushing, but just, you know, giving somebody else an opportunity, is because I can't drop my room to a fucking to a legit temp. I want to drop it. Like my ball pythons can handle 65, low 60s all day, you know?
Yeah.
And I won't ever have a RI problem. But now that my snakes are so big, like my retics were never as big the years prior, but now they're like pretty much adults now, and they're fucking big. They're huge. And, you know, God forbid you drop that ambient down set below 70, you come in the next morning, you hear somebody sneezing, and you're like, oh my God, really? And, you know, you don't want to deal with RIs. So immediately you have to bump the heat up and everything when that happens, right? So
and that can throw off the cycling of your whole room, right?
The whole room. Yeah. So yeah, man, that's why this year I was like, well, you know, I don't even have plans to breed big snakes anymore. I admire them. They're gorgeous. But they're, you know, I don't have time for pets. You know, I have alpacas as pets. You know, I don't need retics, you know, unfortunately. So
yeah, they're beautiful animals, but it's I mean, in the perfect world, if you had a separate room for those and you could do your thing or keep them as pets or breed them, you know, but you know, it takes a lot to get to that place where you can have a separate room for everything. So you got to cohabitate or you got to pick your, you know, make some hard choices, right?
Yeah. I mean, to capitalize on that, one thing I was able to do that really like helped my chondros and my emeralds thrive a lot better were separating those snakes from the big snakes. Because I went ahead and, you know, my wife, God bless her, she went ahead and said, all right, go ahead and make this your arboreal room or whatever. And well, I pulled every single arboreal snake out of the trap and put them in their own room where, you know, I mean, it's ideal to drop night temps down to mid 60s and shit with these snakes. Like they, you know, it's especially for breeding, it's really, really good. So, it's just like you said, having a room for, you know, it comes down to having rooms for certain species, and that could really help you thrive in on all spectrums of things. But it's really hard, if not impossible, to do it all in one room. I think there's people that do it. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like for me, like the way I run everything, which is basically off of ambient and just natural weather. I'm in Southern California, so I rarely run heat on anything. I see an ovulation, then I run heat. But if there's no ovulation, I rarely run heat on anything because I don't need to. It's, you know, we have perfect weather here.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
even
man.
When we were talking earlier, you talked about your outdoor cages that you want to build. Like, that would be a dream here, but obviously in Ontario, it's not happening. But even in the, you know, it'd be nice to have something in the summer. You could let some things out, get some you know, some exercise, and overall health, I think would be a lot better of, you know, attitudes of snakes, you know, just get them outside even, right? Like what Tom Crutchfield has is pretty incredible. You know, some of the outdoor cages he has is just mind blowing.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. And I'll tell you what, that seeing something like that is what really sinks. I mean, if it doesn't, then maybe you're just a monster. But for instance, when I went over to go see Brian Barczyk's place, right? And I always talk about this, when I saw him take out his 18-foot retic and we put it back, it went up and perched. It like acted like a frick, like it just took off. And went up to the highest point of the enclosure. The enclosure is like over 10 feet tall. So, and like here I am thinking, I'm like, I have all my retics in 4x2s, 6x2s, and you know, like they have no way to like even climb anything. And I was like, oh, this is fucked up. I was like, I'm good. I don't want to do this no more. I was like, I just felt bad because you know, my plans aren't to build enclosures like that for retics, even though I would love to, but that's not I'm not trying to do a reptarium. That's not me. You know what I mean? Not right now, at least. So, you know, that's why I just, you know, I love these damn snakes, bro. Like I really do. You know, I've raised them since fucking little tiny noodles, and you know, now it's just. But I'm just being real with myself, and I'll tell you what, bro. When it comes to breeding retics and these big snakes, that's when the light switches on, bro. These males that are the sweetest things ever.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Different story, eh?
Oh, bro, my little OJ, man, he OJ became a killer. Like he kills now. It's I'll tell you, bro, I'm not gonna joke, man. He literally switched. It turned out I paired him with the snake, and he was arching, doing all this weird stuff with his body, like, you know, trying to just like, you know, acting like he was into it. And then when I would take him out, he would just like body check me and then like snap at me. Like he became a wild caught animal. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And there was a situation where he bit himself. Like he thought,
I've heard that. Yeah.
Dude, he literally put a hole in the side of his body. Like I'm talking about a crazy bite, and it was terrible to see. And I was just like, bro, I'm just not a retic guy. I'm sorry.
And so did he ever go back to normal after that?
Yeah, I mean, I stopped as soon as I stopped keeping him away from the female. You know what I mean?
Right.
It took a while. There was a couple times I took him out, and he kept doing that stuff. And I was like, dude, like I thought it was like a neurological thing. Like, is he okay? Like, what's going on with him? But after a while, after a couple feedings, and he shed a couple times, like I think once he understood I'm not breeding no more, he just switched. Like he's, you know, I could take him out again, but I don't know, man. That was intense. I'm not gonna lie, that was intense.
Right. Hard to trust him again after that, eh?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just I hook train all my big snakes. I tap them, and you know that typically always works. But dude, I'm always on my shit with them. I've been bit one too many times, and luckily never been to the hospital. And I don't want to go to the hospital. I need these hands, you know. Right. Because I thought about it, I was like, man, that hole in the side of his body could have easily been the side of my hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or it could have been my fingers, you know, like, I don't know.
I met a guy at an expo, and he had the scars from a retic all over his forearm. And it was serious. Like, just, you know, you get nerve damage and everything, right? So pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least even with a boa, you're not going to get permanent damage, right? You know, it'll hurt your feelings more than anything.
Yeah, and you know, I'll tell you what though, the boa bites do give you a bruise, and they pack a lot more punch than a ball python does. I'll tell you that.
Right.
Ball pythons can make you bleed. Like the ball pythons are like, they can make you bleed. So can boas, but boas literally leave a welt. Like they leave like a bruise on you. Like
Yeah. I got bit right in the gut about a year ago. Just a hungry female, thought it was feeding time, lunged right out of the cage and got me. And they bruise all right. They're she was a full grown female. That's the first full grown female I've been bit by, but I'll remember it for a while.
Ouch.
I'm a little more cautious now opening tubs, especially if there's rats thawing out in the room, right?
Right. Oh my god. What do you use a hook to open, or what do you do to open tubs?
Most of the time just my hand. I just, you know, I can see if they're up close, and exactly. I use a hook on the ball pythons when I'm feeding, because just the scent from the rat, you know, just circulates the room so quickly. And I'll use the hook on those tubs, but the boas, they're just pretty chill most of the time.
Yeah,
so
they are.
Yeah.
All right. So the ball python game. Let's talk about it. Let's and also, I mean, and this could obviously relate to the boas too, but I want to know, at what point did Endorphin become an actual brand? Like, when did that cross in your head? This is when I need a name, what it is that I'm doing, and I hope to God I can make it a business. When did that cross your head?
It was pretty early in. I think I'd maybe had a couple litters of boas and maybe a couple of clutches of ball python eggs, but Just kind of, I just I thought it was better to get sooner rather than later, and build that brand, before I really had even anything. I still to this day probably keep more than I sell even, but I just thought it was an important part of the overall business, if that's the way it was going to go, to have a name and a logo, and then eventually the website, and then the Facebook pages and Instagram, and but it was pretty early in. It's probably been 10 years, I would think. So yeah, maybe not, maybe 8 or 9, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
good.
Just kind of just trying to get my name out there, sort of thing, early, and then vending it a lot. I vended. I remember there was some. So my first expo was the CRBE, which is the big one in Toronto every year, and it just worked out that way. It wasn't that I was going. It just, that was the one I wanted to do because it was the next one, and and I had a few. I probably had a couple dozen animals to sell, and a lot of them were normals. And I remember there was a guy there who was brought